The U.S. launched airstrikes in Syria overnight, hitting two targets linked to Iranian-backed militias. Pentagon officials say a pair of F-16 fighter jets hit key facilities storing weapons near the city of Abu Kamal in eastern Syria. The move follows a series of recent attacks against U.S. forces in the region. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now. Ed, great to see you. What can you tell us about the locations targeted in this strike?
It's believed to be essentially weapons and ammunition storage areas, Meg, along the Iraqi-Syria border. Remember, there are U.S. forces still operating in those countries. They have been there despite the drawdown in Iraq and the relative end of operations against ISIS. They do continue to some extent, and those forces have drawn the attention of Iranian-backed militias in recent weeks since the Israel-Hamas conflict intensified. The United States continuing to say to Iran and its leadership, do not try escalating or broadening this conflict by targeting U.S. forces. If you do, we will respond. And these two overnight strikes indicate the White House is serious about that.
So, Ed, how is this connected then to the ongoing conflict in Israel and Gaza?
Well, the White House would argue they're not, and that's why attacks should not be happening. The U.S. forces in these two countries have been operating independent of what's going on in Israel and Gaza. They have been there, of course, over the last 20-plus years. Of course, what's concerning is that all of these various Iranian-backed militias that operate across the Middle East may be stoked into trying to stir more conflict and trying to expand this to a wider extent, which is why almost immediately you began to hear U.S. officials say after the Hamas attacks to Iran and to these militias, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's these other groups that are now operating, don't target U.S. military installations, diplomatic outposts in the region to try to get us into this thing. We will stop you from doing that. Remember last week there were reports of a carrier, a battleship targeting missiles that had been fired by a militia from Yemen in the direction of Israel. It's kind of the same thing. And so by responding last night in what the Pentagon calls a surgical strike designed to be a type of self-defense, they hope that a message has been sent and it deters such attacks from continuing.
Ed, there was also a report yesterday of a close call between a Chinese plane and a U.S. fighter jet. Is that expected to be addressed in today's meetings between the Chinese Foreign Minister and Secretary of State Blinken?
That's a good question, Meg. We'll see if that, if we hear later whether or not that comes up, not only in his conversations with Secretary of State Blinken, but potentially with his expected conversation today with President Biden. Wang Yi is in Washington, essentially reciprocating on a visit that Secretary of State Blinken made to Beijing recently to meet with him, but then also to meet with President Xi. So the thought is that the U.S. will return the favor, setting the stage for a meeting between the two leaders of the U.S. and China at the APEC conference in San Francisco next month. We'll see. But it's believed that Wang Yi will be here at the White House this afternoon for meetings with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and then potentially at least a few moments with President Biden. We'll wait and see.
All right. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much.